Obviously, we're communicating with him throughout the process of free agency, and we're going back and forth with his agent, and weren't able to reach an agreement. And you have to make decisions after, if you feel like you're close to getting a deal done, or if you're not getting a deal done. And obviously, we signed Larry back, and we got Micah Tights coming back at will, so we feel like we're in good situation there.
Do you see Sean Bain as a starter?
Yeah, we see him as a starter. We think that with given the opportunity, we think that he'll be a very good player. He's an explosive player. Probably can do a lot of different things with him. He plays multiple positions, and so we're excited to have him. Feel like he's ready to step up in a bigger role.
Jeremy, was it late into the offseason that you realized Trevor Harris would be available? Because it didn't seem until the reports about the Montreal ownership came out that Trevor Harris seemed like a free agent target.
Well, you don't know who's going to be a free agent until they make it to free agency, so you kind of just, obviously, there's a little bit of a waiting game there. And usually with free agency, when the offseason starts, everyone gets excited because Maria and everyone does a real good job of finding out who all the free agents are and putting it in the paper. So everyone starts to play a little bit of fantasy football of who's going to be available. And then as the offseason goes, we usually, you see those players coming off the board. So really just had to be patient at that position, and we were hoping to get into the window to get an opportunity to talk to him, and fortunate enough we were.
What does Trevor have to do for this team to live up to all the hype and this expectation and everything else?
Yeah, I don't know about all the hype. I think that he just needs to be himself. I think he's played long enough in this league where he doesn't need to try to do anything that he hasn't already done. I think he just needs to be Trevor Harris and play consistent football. And he's always been a quarterback that's been very efficient, very accurate, and has a lot of great leadership qualities. And so he just needs to come in and be himself and not to put too much pressure on himself.
I looked at the video yesterday. You look about as happy as I've ever seen you when you're telling Trevor you're going to sign him. Was that kind of one of the big moments in your career as a GM?
Well, I think you can imagine when you're going into free agency and you don't have a starting quarterback that you're, there's always some uncertainty there. Yet you hope that you get an opportunity to sign the players that you want, and certainly when you finally get a chance to talk to him and realize that he's going to become a Rough Rider, you get excited about it. So, you always have a plan, but until you get into free agency, you don't know exactly how that plan is going to shake out. And so it's obviously exciting for all of us and our staff and our organization as a whole, right? So we've got a lot of people in the building that are wondering what's going on in these rooms down here, and so it is an exciting time.
How do you rate his signing as your term as a GM and player that you brought into this team?
I guess it's TBD, right? So we'll hope that it works out real well for us and for him. And again, we're just excited. We're not trying to put all the pressure in the world on Trevor Harris. We're bringing him in to be a piece of the puzzle, and he's an experienced guy that's been through it, and it's not his first time leading a football team.
I know there were a lot of speculation about who the quarterback should be, and a lot of names were floating out there. What in your mind made Harris the right fit for Saskatchewan, and just in your own mind?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking for a good football player, right? But you're also looking for a good person, someone that's high in character, that's someone that's had success in our league, someone that's has the ability to win football games for you. And obviously, he's done all that in our league and been a very successful quarterback. So. Again, when you're going into free agency, you have to look at the players that are available, and you have to evaluate all the players in each position and determine kind of who's the player in each position that you want to go after, right? So there's a lot that goes on in free agency that people don't know, and when you talk to players, there's more into it than just dollars. I know everyone thinks it's just about dollars, but there's a lot more that goes into free agency than that.
What does it mean to you to know for sure that Schaefer Baker is back, and was that a selling point at all for Trevor when you were trying to sell him on Saskatchewan?
No, we didn't. Obviously, he's excited to play with Schaefer, and it comes up in the conversation when you're talking to him in that window of what are our plans. He definitely wanted to know what's going on with our plans, because you could see going into free agency that we were I guess you can look at it any way you want, but we were going into it with not a lot of our starters back. So there was going to be some significant change on offense. And so, he just was more wanted to know what the plan was and what way we were going. And then he certainly helped us in that process with talking to players and, even players that haven't even been in the CFL yet. He's willing to give them a call and hasn't even been in the building, but he's recruiting for us.
Jeremy, you had told us that obviously finding a starting quarterback or a veteran presence at quarterback was going to be a big part of free agency in this offseason, but also addressing the offensive line. Bringing in Peter Godber, where did you have him ranked as far as bringing in an offensive lineman for this team?
Well, you have to look at all the guys. Again, you look at all the players that are available, and you have to see, how do you feel like you can improve the offensive line, and is it a situation where you want to get younger, if you want to make change, and so, yeah, just a lot of film work. Obviously, there's a number of players. I wouldn't say there was a ton of offensive linemen that were available in free agency, similar to last year. I think I don't think there's many GMs that aren't very intelligent in our league. They understand the importance of good offensive linemen. So there wasn't a heck of a lot of offensive linemen, but we had conversations with a lot of them. I'd say there was a large number of conversations that we had, and some offers that we made that weren't accepted, and but we wanted to improve that. So adding Peter Godber, a starting center in our league, and someone that we feel like the ceiling's high for, and was super excited for us to call and to offer him a contract. And then adding Philip Blake, who's a very versatile offensive lineman, can play really all 5 positions on the offensive line. So we really think he's going to provide some veteran leadership to the group that with a younger group of offensive linemen that we'll need. And again, so we're excited to get those 2 guys.
Bringing in a younger center, what does that say for the future of Dan Clark with this team?
Yeah, we're very open with Dan that we were going to pursue other offensive linemen in there, and I think there's still a conversation that we have to have with Dan, and just to let him know where we're at coming out of free agency. But we were very open with him throughout the process that we were going to pursue other players.
Is there a chance that we see Dan Clark re-signed with this team?
I'd never say there's never a chance, but I would say going into camp, I think it's highly unlikely.
What does it say to have a guy like Micah Johnson come back for a third stint here in Saskatchewan?
Yeah, it's a good question because there's I think he left here for different reasons, and it wasn't bad breakups or anything like that. We I think in both occasions that he went to a different team, we did offer him a contract back, and Micah's got a family that he has to take care of, and this one was kind of a late development, to be honest. In free agency, we didn't think we would have an opportunity to get Micah. We thought that his salary wouldn't be in the range for us, and I think just the way the market shifted and how it changed, we kept the conversations alive with his agent, and then eventually we realized that we could make a fair offer for him.
With the addition of him, does it give you the ability to move Lanier around along the defensive line, put him inside as well, bump him out to the outside?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the things that we've considered throughout the process that a lot of people wouldn't know, is we do see Anthony as an inside-outside guy. So he's had success rushing the passer both inside and outside, right? So we do see him be that flex defensive lineman that can move out to the end if we want to. So signing Micah just allows us some more creativity and flexibility on the D line, and obviously we really wanted to focus in free agency on offense and defensive line.
What was the overall goal for you this free agency? It seemed like, especially on the offensive side, kind of revamping the passing attack.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, uncertainty at quarterback when you go into free agency, that's something that you really want to take care of and be aggressive with when you get the opportunity. And then, we really want to focus on the lines and in the trenches, and being able to get after the quarterback, but doing a better job of protecting the quarterback as well, right? So those were big areas of focus. And then obviously we're making some change at the receiver position, right? So wanted to bring someone in that Trevor was familiar with, that we think is a very good player. He's only 28 years old, and Jake Weineke. And so he was fired up to come here. It's always refreshing when you talk to free agents and how excited they are to come and play in Saskatchewan. So we're we're excited to hear that when guys are excited to come here, right? So, and then Sean Bain, we just saw him as a kind of an up-and-comer player that, again, was excited, really just wants an opportunity to have a bigger role, and we certainly feel like we can give him that in our offense.
Speaking of players searching for bigger roles, Stephen Banks was a rotational guy in Calgary. There's a starting defensive end spot opposite Peter Robertson available. Do you think Banks is that guy?
Yeah, that's why we signed him. And again, it's he was productive with a limited amount of time that he's been able to play. He was a rotational guy, and we'd like to rotate here as well. So I think he'll get more reps than he had, but he also we feel like we want to roll those guys and keep them fresh. And as we talk to, Lanier can bump out there, and we're still working really hard on our negotiation list players. And there's an element to this that everyone needs to understand is just it's still our job to find players that haven't come to the CFL too, right? So I know everyone wants every position to be solidified when you're going into training camp and always have an answer, but 2 years ago, no one knew who Anthony Lanier was, right? So no one knew who Pete Robertson was. So those are our job to do, and we do have to do a good job of bringing in new players as well.
Do you have cap space for any more kind of big name signs, or is it just a depth pieces at this point?
Yeah, it's more depth. I think a lot of the heavy lifting has been done already. I think you wish you had a ton of cap space and you could go out and sign more players, but ultimately you can only sign so many players, and you don't ever get through it with having a bunch of money left over and say, oh, we can really go out and get some other players that are in the end here. But we'll keep looking at ways to be creative, and sometimes as guys go through free agent, if they don't have an opportunity, then maybe their prices come down and there's an opportunity there. But we just try more than anything to keep the doors open, and you don't want to be caught in a situation where you see a player sign somewhere and you kind of look at their contract and you go, geez, we would have had interest at that. So you got to have a lot of conversations, but you're also understanding that as far as the big moves, we're probably where we are.
Gio, how hard is it to move on from a guy like Dan Clark? You've been out like 2009. You mentored him. You dealt with him. What's it like to move on from a man like that in this case? Is that the toughest part of the business? Or?
Without a doubt, Dan's. I think Dan might be the last player that's left from that I played with as a player, right? So the guy is a rough rider through and through. He emulates everything you want from a football player as far as play on the field, the toughness aspect, the leadership ability in the locker room, and also in the community. Dan's a Regina guy and has been in the community for a long time, and so those are really tough decisions when you're having those conversations. But ultimately, when you have a season like we do, there's going to be change. There is going to be change, and those are the difficult decisions that we have to have. And obviously, Dan's been a great leader for us for a long time.
Do you feel after yesterday you got more options in terms of how you want to utilize the Canadian ratio throughout the positions?
Yeah, we do. With Adam Phillip Blake, he's got the ability to play tackle. I know he's probably more of a natural center guard, but he played very well at left tackle for Toronto, and they won the Grey Cup with him playing tackle. So he provides us some flexibility, some ratio ability there. If we wanted to go 4 on the O-line, or if we wanted to stick with 3, then he just competes with the inside 3 guys. And then our Canadian receivers, I think, is still a strength for us. I think we have the ability to start 3 if we wanted to. But again, it's just a matter of how everything shakes down. Getting Micah Tights also brings back some ratio flexibility in there. So we've got some options, and that's what we wanted to create. And we still have a draft in front of us. So if we feel like we need to add players in certain positions, we certainly will address that in the draft.
On free agency, but Zach Fry was a guy you guys drafted last year, and do you expect him to come in and maybe challenge for a starting spot on that O-line?
We hope so. That's the thing. When we're having these conversations, and you're looking at, I obviously wanted to add some guys that are starter quality and that are good players in our league, but some of the other players that are available, if you if when we're talking to agents, they're talking about, hey, do you want this guy as a potential sixth man or a potential guy that could be a seventh man? And you really have to understand, we don't want to just discount our draft picks, right? We got to believe that our draft picks are capable of doing it. That's why we drafted them. You can't go into a season with a couple high draft picks and say we're going to sign a free agent to replace them, right? So you have to understand there has to be a natural progression there for the draft picks, and again, it's an opportunity for those guys, and but you have to be willing to make those moves, right? So you have to be willing to trust in the guys you drafted and trust that they're doing the work and put some belief into them.
Craig mentioned he wanted to have kind of a veteran backup quarterback to Trevor. Are you now comfortable with the 4 guys you have on the roster to find a backup there? Which backup quarterback questions, typical Saskatchewan one, but
Yeah, we feel comfortable with the guys that we have in house as backups.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome.
We'll see you back here on 1 o'clock.